So what's going on, everybody? So check it out. I really am enjoying this style of tank setup. To me, it's easy, it's clean aesthetically. The shrimp are enjoying it. But this time I went one step further. So what I basically did was I'm using a double sponge filter and a modified sponge filter box. Why not? Best of both worlds, right? But I really do think I've been duped. And maybe we all have, just a little bit. And not really in a bad way, but maybe in a bad way. The hurdle, I think, for all of us, and especially for me, has been substrate. I've spent a lot of money on different types of substrates, super focused on making sure I had the right kind of substrate and relying on the substrate to determine my success in shrimp keeping. So did I dupe myself? And I think maybe a little bit, because obviously I have this with no substrate on the bottom of the tank and just substrate inside the filter box using the substrate fluval stratum because I'm very comfortable using it, so I use that. The box has the filter or the substrate inside the filter box, water circulating through that. To me, logically, in my brain, that should work. It's taken me years to get here. Years, people. And so now I kind of feel duped, if that makes sense. I duped myself into thinking and relying on the substrate to lower my pH. What made me start thinking about it was that I realized in all my years of fish keeping, lots of aquariums that I have seen that have fish that require or do better in soft water conditions with no special substrate. They didn't have fancy, you got to have this kind of substrate for this fish, like we do for shrimp. So that made me think, how are ways that I can get past the pH issue without being so dependent on the substrate, the different kinds of substrate, whether it's Akadama or Amazonia or Brightwell or Fluval or UN Aquasoil or all the different variables that contribute greatly to how we go about keeping our shrimp, right? If we're so hyper focused on the substrate, I think we get away from understanding the natural environment that the shrimp require to thrive. And it's not the substrate, really, honestly. And it's taken me a little bit to get past this. Now, what I mean to get past it is that I've always had substrate in my tanks. Then, through just thinking and dealing with cleanups and resets and different methods, whether I'm using double sponge filters or matten filters, it all made me start thinking about different ways to make it easier on myself, but still have quality shrimp and keep, number one, that they breed. As long as my shrimp are breeding, I think I'm doing good, right? Doesn't matter neocaridina, caridina, doesn't matter kind of fish. As long as they're breeding, you're doing something right. That's how I keep it shrimpable. The flexibility that I've toyed with over the past year and a half with one, honestly, being broke. When you're broke and you don't have tons of money to spend on substrate and putting it in your tanks and setting up multiple tanks with various shrimp. They start breeding, and then all of a sudden you got to start culling. Well, at least I do. I cull my shrimp, and then I need more tanks, but I need more substrate, and so on and so forth. So how did I reduce my costs? Well, I went to the sponge filter box, and that was kind of by accident. I bought the sponge filters, and I used them just in regular water, tap water, and my neocaridinas and guppies, and with the intent that maybe I'd try it. Well, then I did, and put substrate in one of them, a little one, and it worked. So I tried, put a couple more shrimp in it, bare bottom with just that filter, and it seemed to be working. So I kind of got brave, but I was still skeptical. So I did a tank with 2 of the sponge filter boxes, and I put substrate in it. And then I did another one bare bottom with just the filter boxes, and then I did another one with substrate in it, kind of testing it out both ways. The next one I did, I only put a little bit of substrate, but I was still, in my mind, I was dependent on having substrate in my tank. I'm thinking I have to have substrate. I have to have substrate in order for it to work. Now I've gone to the next level of realizing that I don't think I do. I mean, yes, I need to buffer my water. I need to keep it less than neutral pH. But I've been doing this now for several years, and especially this method over the past year. I got to tell you, I think I've been duped, or I duped myself into being so dependent on substrate to get the conditions right in my shrimp tanks. Obviously, just look at the videos, look at what I've been putting out there lately. I got some really quality shrimp, and I'm not having to deal with a bunch of mess with the substrates and resets. Resets are much easier. And even the tanks that I do have a little bit of substrate in, it's not the big mess that you're accustomed to with regular tanks. So I'm going to try this out. Hopefully everybody's learning a little bit of something. I know I am. I'm learning a lot by doing this. And I'm not saying that you don't need to use active soil. All I'm saying is that I don't think you have to be as dependent on it as you think. You just have to make sure that you buffer your water, if that makes sense. Get it less than neutral, however you go about doing so. And I go more about the look of the filter as far as how much flow is coming out. If it doesn't look like the flow, just like on a sponge filter, if the flow is reduced, it's because your sponge is clogged. Same thing with these. If the flow is reduced, it's because you need to reset it. And it takes about 4 cups per sponge filter box. About 4 cups, maybe 3 to 4 cups, depending on how you fill it up. On mine, the way I do it here, 3 to 4 cups. So, not very much. Resets are easy. The box filter is just really, it's just my way of doing the UGF system. It's my way of keeping it shrimple. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. I love shrimp. Peace.